Earlier today, we finally got the deep dive for Dynasty Mode in EA College Football 25 with a 6-minute video and a blog about all the details to the mode. While most people are going to go over the short video, I think that the blog gave a lot more detail. 80 pages and 17,000 words about the mode. I get that not everybody has time to read it, so I read it for you, and we'll go over the most important things touched upon in the 80-page article. We're going to go over things such as the new 12-team playoff, recruiting, the transfer portal, and customization options, including teambuilder. So let's not waste any time, and let's get this show on the road as we see how you will be able to lead your school to the national championship. Let's start with how you're going to build your coach. Your coach will upgrade based on his performance in his team's games, how he performs recruiting-wise, team stats, which can be found in the coach screen or in-game notifications, and if players get drafted to the next level. Your coach's backstory will start as one of three things: a motivator, a recruiter, or a tactician. Archetypes can focus on two. For example, talent acquisition focuses on recruiting and motivation. There are certain prerequisites in order to get better in a set archetype. Elite recruiters must spend 50 points in the regular archetype and have 2 top 5 recruiting classes. Completing these goals gives you more points to spend and more branches to put points into. As you spend more points into higher abilities, obviously those higher tiers will have stronger abilities for your coach. Coordinators will boost automatically, so your hires are going to be very important because you won't control which areas they improve upon. Obviously, your coach prestige will be able to climb up and down based on team performance. Winning big games will improve the prestige for you and the school that you are currently at. Job security will fluctuate throughout the season, and you will get, of course, as I said earlier, a prestige grade based on your team's performance. The coaching carousel kicks off during conference championship week, very similar to how it is in real life. I really like the realism here that it starts as soon as the regular season is over. You'll be getting job offers by the week. So it again starts during the conference championships, but this will continue into the bowl games along with into the offseason. Schools will decide which coaches they want based on level, scheme, archetype, pipeline, and the coach prestige. And obviously, as schools hire different coaches, this leads to a domino effect of other jobs opening up, and maybe you get offered a job that you really want later into the offseason. You can only fire your coordinators during the conference championship week, so if you want to get rid of them, that's the time to do it. Once you get into the bowl week, you can hire new coordinators from there. I love what EA ended up doing with the recruiting because it feels like it was really humanized. These players feel like real people with real wants and demands. The immersion here includes differentiating between certain regions. Obviously, it's going to be easier for top schools to get good players and an unpredictable transfer portal. So recruiting is built through 3 phases: discovery, pitch, and close. Players have 14 different criteria with grades listed for each, including certain deal breakers where they care about the most. Your program has health and transfer risk, so if your program does not have good grades across the board, not only is it going to be harder for you to recruit, but it's going to be more likely players on your roster will transfer away. Your school has its own GPA, which is basically a grade point average of these 14 attributes. 3,500 recruits per season are put into the recruiting database. And I think that the game did a really good job of really focusing on certain regions. For instance, in real life, there's a lot of quarterback talent that comes from Southern California. So the game has made it so there's a lot of QB talent from that area of the country. East Texas produces a lot of bigger physical receivers, whereas South Florida, you're going to find smaller, faster receivers. The game has made it so real regions that produce certain archetypes of player in real life translates into the game, which is really cool in my opinion. Initial player interest is based on, obviously, the 14 grades, and the player's interest will narrow throughout the season. The amount of schools they're interested in goes down, so you're going to have to keep them interested. As I said earlier, there's 3 phases to recruiting. That starts with discovery, which is what you're going to do, obviously, right at the beginning. Identify prospects based on their position, archetype, star rating, their size, and obviously their interest in the school. You can set your recruiting board up based on your positional needs, and you have recruiting hours, which is based on your school's prestige. Bigger schools like the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world will likely have around 1,000 recruiting hours. Smaller schools with less prestige, maybe as low as 350 hours. So again, the bigger schools have the advantage and more resources to get really good players. As a coach, you're going to have more time for recruiting during the preseason and the offseason because you're not going to be preparing for games. In the preseason, you'll be able to scout players and offer scholarships. There's 4 different stages of scouting, from being unscouted to fully scouted, with stages in the middle where you might know certain attributes or a certain grade of an attribute, but you're not going to obviously know about the whole player. Players who are higher rated are easier to scout because they're more higher profile around the country. Other scouts are already going to know about them. They're more accessible on social media. They're more well known, and through going to camps throughout the summer, they're going to have more exposure as well. Again, humanizing and immersion. So from there, you're going to have to make an ideal pitch, and you're going to have to do it quick by offering scholarships, searching their social media. Imagine if you find your player sent racist tweets 6 years ago. You'll be able to DM the player, contact friends and family, and send resources to that player. So that brings us to the second stage, pitch. There's soft sell versus hard sell. Hard sell costs more recruiting hours. It's a little bit more risky, but it leads to a higher reward as well. So you're going to have to figure out, if you hard sell the player, maybe they'll be super interested, but maybe it's a deal breaker and they aren't interested. So you're going to have to be smart with how you manage that. You're going to want to make your selling points based on their motivations, but based on what you tell your recruits, their motivations can change. That brings us to the final phase, which is closing the deal. You'll be able to get your prospects to visit your school, but your school needs to be in their top 5, and you're going to need to have offered them a scholarship already. You can host 4 prospects per week during a week that you either have a home game or are on bye week. 40 hours of recruiting is designated for each individual visit, and there's complementary visits based on position. You can have a quarterback and a wide receiver visit the same week, and that may very well boost things because those 2 positions sort of go hand in hand. Once you schedule a visit, you're going to have to be smart with when that visit is. You're more likely to have them given a big impression if it's a late rivalry game at the end of the year. If you win that game, that's really going to boost how much that recruit thinks of your school. But on the flip side, since that game is late in the year, you're in danger of having that player commit to another school before that visit even comes. So again, you're going to have to be smart and balance all of these things out. From there, players can verbally commit to your school if they want to go there, but that doesn't for sure mean that they will. You're going to have to keep all of your grades as a school to a certain point, and if there's a deal breaker that's not hit, the player can decommit and go elsewhere on signing day. Other players on your roster may look to leave, whether it's underclassmen looking to transfer or upperclassmen looking to enter the NFL. You're going to have limited persuasion attempts based on coach prestige and how interested the player might be in returning. If you cut a player who's already on your roster, they will be able to transfer elsewhere. It's not like they completely disappear off the face of the earth like they did in previous NCAA games. The newest feature that I'm most excited to see implemented into the game is the transfer portal. Your school may have a mass exodus of players who leave or a much smaller number. The transfer portal will be open during off-season recruiting. Like high school prospects, the transfers are given star ratings, and they may have new or similar motivations based on when they were high school prospects. The same deal breakers that caused them to transfer are going to be important here. So if a player transfers away from their school, but your school is the same deal breaker as the one that they left, obviously they're not going to be interested in you. 4 to 5 star players will only consider 5 schools, while lower ranked players will likely consider more. The process is fast. You're going to need quick visits to close the deal quickly because in college football, the transfer portal moves absurdly fast. If you don't move with the speed of the portal, you'll be left behind. Cough, cough, Dabo Sweeney. That brings us to early signing day and national signing day, where your verbal commits can officially sign to go to your school. Unsigned players will walk on. So again, it's not like they completely disappear off the face of the earth. That brings us to the other parts of the offseason, including position changes, which is important if you want to switch players' positions around. This is obviously important for high school athletes who aren't listed at a set spot. Player progression is here as well. Player ratings and physical abilities will improve, but not mental abilities, just to kind of keep the smarter players, or I guess the more emotionally aware players, different from the lesser aware players. Your players will have development traits, pretty similar to Madden. They will have normal development, impact development, star development, or elite development. And obviously, the elite players are going to have the most potential to be great, going down to normal development, which is how a lot of the players across the country will develop. You'll be able to upgrade certain attributes on your players as well, but it's different to Madden, where players have individual attributes that can get better. Here, certain attributes are grouped together, and from there, you can upgrade your players accordingly. Their physical and mental abilities can have 4 tiers, going from bronze to platinum. Again, platinum being the best, and these tiers can improve with your players as well. Each team is going to have impact players as well. Every team will at least have 1 on offense and 1 on defense. There's no limit to the amount of impact players you can have, which is different than prior NCAA games. That makes the more star-studded teams look more star-studded. From there, let's talk about the 12-team college football playoff, which of course is new to college football this year. Like in real life, there's going to be a college football playoff ranking that opens up in November, and you'll be able to see what the 12-team bracket looks like at that time. Once it is time to see who will make the playoffs, a model will decide who gets in. So I guess there's an algorithm that determines which teams are deserving based on their record and conference prestige. The 5 highest-ranked conference champions will get in, with 4 of them getting byes in the first round, and there will be 7 at-large teams that are determined by the model or the algorithm. The first-round college football playoff games will be played on college campuses, which is going to be really cool, and then the quarterfinal and semifinal games will be played at the New Year's Six sites, such as the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl, etc. There's also 34 other bowl games with the correct real-life tie-ins based on conferences. Let's go to custom conferences now, which was always really fun in the old NCAA games. So obviously, you can switch teams around per conference, and they're going to have set rules. If you want to go back to the old realignment and bring back the Pac-12, you can do that. If you want a super conference in the SEC, you can do that as well, switching conference games, if there's divisions in the conferences, etc. A small feature that I really like is that once teams are moved into a new conference, their stadium and jerseys will be updated with that conference's patch. I think that's a very small but very nice detail added to the game. Let's talk about the schedules as well. Something that's really cool is that for non-conference games in the future, EA has already planned those out. Colleges plan home and homes over the next 10 to 15 years. So a lot of the schools already know who they're playing for their non-conference games as late as like the 2030s. The game has programmed that in. For example, Florida State and Georgia have a home and home in around 5 years from now. Once you get 5 years into the future, that home and home will be inside the game. There's also going to be theme games as well. You're going to have designated games per season with a certain theme. For example, Penn State is going to have a whiteout game. Obviously, you're going to be able to customize your non-conference schedule by season, so even though the game has projected future schedules down the line, you can switch non-conference opponents as you wish. Let's wrap up with Team Builder. You can put up to 16 Team Builder teams in a private online dynasty only, but if you're doing a dynasty on your own, obviously you can still have an online dynasty and run it solo, so you can have your own individual Team Builder save. These can only be set, though, before the dynasty starts. So once you're into the dynasty, you can't add any more Team Builder teams, and you're going to have to replace schools that are already in the game. Some other small things here include the accurate redshirt rules. You can have a player play 4 games per season and still get redshirted. Hardware, you'll be able to get trophies such as winning rivalry games and then individual player awards and All-American or All-Conference honors. There's accessible records as well. You're able to see who has the records currently in certain statistics and if players eventually break those down the line. Pride stickers update as well. Look at these helmets. As your season goes along, players will be able to add stickers to their helmets. So that wraps up the video. I really like what EA did with Dynasty Mode this year, and I hope you guys enjoyed my analysis of the 80-page deep dive. That was a lot of reading because there's a lot of stuff that has been put in the mode, but I really feel like they humanized Dynasty Mode, and it really feels like a real college football experience. I can't wait to get my hands on the game in 2 weeks and get some Dynasty content here on the channel. Hope everybody enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.